We'll go ahead and start. I'll briefly try to go through this because I know time is short, but I just wanted to give you an update on the DBO activities. You can go, I have control. Okay. We know this area. I wanted to give just a brief statement about the Pacific Arctic Group, because we are dealing with 6 countries in the development of the sampling in the Pacific Arctic region, where we know there's been rapid sea ice retreat and also warming both atmosphere and seawater input. So the 4 main thrusts of PAG, and I think most of you or many of you know this, we have our annual field activities, and I'll briefly show that. I will just focus in on the Distributed Biological Observatory, some of the results. We also have syntheses and project development as part of the goal of this 6-country effort. So the DBO, we link the physics to the biology, so it's set up as an array for consistent monitoring of biophysical components in the DBO. And what you're seeing in the left updated map is 1 through 8, because one of the things we did over the last year is add 3 lines up under the Beaufort Sea, all focused around areas of high biological productivity, biodiversity, and change. And what you're seeing by the flags is where we have connections with various countries and organizations related to activities that we do on these lines. For example, we're working through the Pacific Arctic Group with the Marine Working Group of IASC, sampling with our colleagues various cruises that go across these lines, working with our Russian colleagues on the Russian-American Long-Term Census Program, and our annually cruises that we work with the Canadian colleagues with an agreement between Department of Fisheries, Oceans, and the U.S. So just an example, this is the cruises, particularly this is an update on the Iran cruises this year. But these are various, both the Japan's, the Mirai, the Zhulong from China, the Iran. We're not using the Kromov, we're using a different Russian ship for Rusalka this year, but we'll be out on the Laurier. So these are just examples of some of the different cruises. And when we have our annual meetings, we put together, this is the most recent listing of when the cruises are leaving different ports, the ships, what regions they're occupying here in the DBO, what the projects are called, and then the contact information. And this was updated today and is up on the DBO website, which is NOAA website that was at the beginning of it. You just put DBO NOAA in the Google, you'll come right to this. So we have a standard set of measurements that we collect from temperature, salinity to ADCP, looking at nutrients, chlorophyll, up to the different types of lower and higher trophic abundance and biomass, looking at standard sediment measurements, and then marine mammal and seabird surveys. I would also point out that we have mooring data, and as of this year, we will have a mooring in the DBO-2, which is in the Chirikov Basin by our Japanese colleagues. So with NOAA all the way up to work that's up in the Barrow Canyon, we'll have moorings at each one of the DBO regions. And we also have satellite data collections going on with our collaboration with NASA. So this is just one example of the trends in the annual persistence of sea ice, and we are tracking that. You can see that we have various, in the northern Bering Sea is the least, highest up by as we move in, actually into the Beaufort Sea. So you're looking at the latest since 2007 and compared to the satellite record, 1979 to 2002 is the satellite record for in purple. And you can see the extreme pullback that's going on in the green colorations. So with NASA, they work on you can go to the NASA webpage, so putting the products together for us on the, both from atmospheric vectors as well as sea surface temperature, salinity. They also have chlorophyll, and so what you're seeing are the different patterns in sea ice extent. And this is done as part of our collaborative efforts. And you can see more about this in discussions on our DBO collaborative team. I just would point out one thing is that one thing that Joey's doing with that and Karen is they're actually doing time series, looking back at the last decades and comparing parameters. And so they're doing statistics on those different regions, particularly DBO 1 to 5. Just one example of we have cruises, up to 14 cruises that are going across depending on the line here. One example, since it was mentioned previously about the gray whale feeding in the southeast Chukchi Sea. This is this anadir water, very high nutrient stratification by this time in August, so most of the production has settled down to the benthos. But we have a time series that you'll see an example in a few minutes. We're also collecting chlorophyll, and this data here is provided to NASA for ground truthing on some of the satellites. So we try to accumulate these field data that are then provided and compared with the satellite observations. And we're also then looking at species composition, and that's what you're seeing here, primarily diatoms in that anadir water. You can see that up at DBO4 too. As you go to the coastal water, you get into more of the dinoflagellates. This is an example from the Marine Biodiversity Observing Network from the cruise last year. So this is a larger survey going from the southern Chukchi to the northeast Chukchi, and then embedded we reoccupy the DBO 3 and 4, and then this becomes part of the time slices that we have within the program, utilizing our collaboration with other larger programs in the area. These are surface chlorophyll sediment parameters. Just one example, this is a time series of the hotspots. So we have DBO lines embedded in our tracking and seeing actually changes in some of these sites over the four decades. And for example, this is just work with the Russians on the Rusalka program, where we've been tracking not only this decline in the major prey base for some of the diving, the benthic feeding animals, but actually a northward movement of the pulse of where that carbon is, which is related to the advection in the region. As I mentioned, this is we have moorings now going in for each one of the 5 sites. These are just related to the regional ones. There are probably 60 moorings up in that area, and we do have a summary of those that Phyllis Stabenow from NOAA has available on the DBO and PAG websites. But this is just one example of our Japanese colleagues in that hotspot area, picking up the seasonality that we see when we have production, and then the lower oxygen in the fall and into the winter time. And what is interesting is the pickup of these fall blooms, which are relatively new in recent times because the ices pulled back sooner and not coming back until later in the season. And so this is an area where we're trying to work and get some more NASA products at that period of time. One example of the time slices, this is a publication that came out in Deep Sea Research in 2015 with collaborative 11 authors across multiple ships. And what you're seeing is that buildup of the Alaska coastal water as it warms, with the highest pulse coming through in the September time period. And this is Bering Sea winter and summer water, cold coming on to the western part of the Barrow Canyon region. We're also working with NASA's, this is contribution for the aerial surveys, and you can see we had a nice presentation already on the different marine mammals, but this is DBO3 with the gray whale hotspot, DBO4 and 5 with bowheads and gray whales, and then the survey as they go to DBO, to the regions that we have DBO lines in 6 and 7. So at the same time, working with Kathy Kulitz, she is doing seabird surveys for fish and wildlife with variable funding sources. And you can see the highest concentrations are in that August-September period. And then we're analyzing where the seabirds are going at which time of the years in relation to the oceanographic parameters. And most of the data right now is in the DBO 3 and 4, and Kathy participates in the annual Canadian-US cruise. So we have a data sharing protocol between countries, what we signed off on in 2015, and we have a collaboration team, as you are probably all aware of, that has a lot of the information and connections about where you can connect to the data sites. Just one example, we developed a metadata file so that the 4 different components, whether you're doing transects, aerial marine mammal work, mooring work, can be put into this, as well as satellites, can be categorized on these meta files, which are then in this observing mode currently at the Earth Observing Lab, and all the data is also sitting at the NSF New Data Archive in Santa Barbara. So one of the backbones we have, and I'll be concluding this, is the DBO data workshops. So we bring together participants. We are in the process of, we have about a 25-paper special issue coming out with multi-authored, multi-country contributions using the DBO data sets. And I'd just like to end, we have an implementation plan that's available on the DBO collaborative team sites. And you're just seeing the cycle coming from, we have our annual meetings in the spring for cruise planning. We have sampling during the summer into the fall. We have fall meetings. This year we'll be in China to talk about preliminary results and discuss where who will be doing the observing lines the following year. We tried to have our nearly annual on the data workshops and then development of data products, and you can see how the cycle goes. But that implementation plan is sitting on that site. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks so much,
Jackie.
Jackie.
Any questions? I would just add an update that I gave a briefing out to the Chinese delegations at NSF that conveyed an interest of actually, they occupy 3 of the lines now, which they will do this year, of occupying all 5 of the lines. Of course, we need to work on the seasonal aspects of that and working with the local communities depending on the timing. I should also mention that the IASC has supported a workshop for the Barents Sea to develop a DBO line as part, because they are seeing their fisheries moving northward in the northern part of the Barents, so they will be developing that there. And as part of RISALCA, we'll be moving the DBO line or extending it over further into the Russian side up in the northern part of the Chukchi.
Thank you, Jackie. That was very informative.